And now it's time to see Adobe InDesign in action, and we're going to be designing that cover in here. That could be a brochure cover or even a book cover. Basically the concept is the same in InDesign. And I've designed that cover for Sahara Petroleum Services, or Sapesco, a great company that I've been working for as a designer. So that's actually a real project. So without further ado, let's jump into Adobe InDesign. That's actually Photoshop. I'm trying to demonstrate that one in here, pressing escape. And by the way guys, you will find that mockup file in your resources, along of course with that Adobe InDesign project. So here we can check that one. That's our mockup file. We have the Photoshop file and also a JPEG. And also we have the InDesign file if you would like to follow along. Or you can start from scratch and open an empty file in Adobe InDesign. And you will find your different design assets in that BSD file in here. We're gonna see that in action. So let's go to InDesign. That's our project file in here. We have our cover, and that's when it's in spread. So we have the front cover and back cover as well. And that's our mockup file. We're not gonna be working on that file in here. This is just for you so you can imagine how it's going to look like. So let's start our design from scratch, going to that document in here. And before we start, it's really recommended that you go ahead and grab your coffee or tea or whatever you would like to drink, because seriously you can get to know so much about InDesign tools, panels and different features in that video. So here, as you can see in that document, we have 4 pages A4 size, and they are facing pages left to right since it's in English. And we have our margins in millimeters. That's half an inch, by the way, because 1 inch equals 254 millimeters. And this should be our front cover and this should be our back cover. However, we're going to be designing our cover in these 2 pages in here, or that spread. Facing pages are called spreads, if you don't know that. And simply we're going to design our cover in these 2 pages or that spread in here to easily visualize everything and make a coherent front and back covers. So let's zoom in. Remember, you can also zoom in and out using Command or Control plus and minus, like so. And here, as you can see, we have 50% zoom level, and that would be our pages. And you can also access your pages from your panels, remember that. Currently we have 2 and 3 selected. Let's go back to our properties panel. And since we're going to print that file, we need to add bleed to our pages as well. So let's go to File and Document Setup. And let's add 5 millimeters. And we already have all values linked, as you can see. So we can click anywhere in here. And we already have nice 5 millimeters around our pages. That bleed area is a safe area around our design file. In case any shifting happens while our pages are being cut, maybe to right, left or up or down by a millimeter or 2, it's not going to be affecting our design. And that's why we extend our design elements to that edge. And if you do already have design elements existing in your pages and you decided to add bleed later, just like we did right now, you can adjust your layout by pressing in here, adjust layout. And I know this is quite technical in the start, however this is going to make your life much easier in the future. So let's press OK anyway. So let's start by placing our graphics or our background image in that case, which happens to be an oil rig. Remember, this is a petroleum services company, and oil rigs will be a great idea in that case. So you can start by searching some different images for oil rigs. Here you can see my research. At that point, I've been looking for different images for oil rigs, and also I had a minimal design art direction in mind, which is, by the way, one of the strongest art directions in brochures and catalogs and stuff like that. So if you ask me guys what I recommend to go for, I will tell you go for minimal design style. It can easily defeat any other design style. So anyway, you'll find that image in your resources, BSD file. And we have that one opened as well in Photoshop. So let's go quickly to Photoshop. That's our image. In that case, we're going for a symbolic image with a white background. And to easily blend your image as well, you can add a mask, like so, by clicking on your Add Vector Mask. Then you can select your brush, pressing B, and make sure you have a feathered brush as well, and black in your foreground. Then you can start painting around your edges like that, maybe in here as well. If you're looking for that vague undefined edges style, and in that case we're using masks to save our image. Remember undestructive editing techniques. And also I adjusted that image's size to A4 size while I started with a smaller image, so we can press option and click in here. That's our original image size, and looks like we have some destruction already made in here, but that's totally fine. We have the original image and there is no much work here to lose. So let's get our layers back, pressing option and clicking in here once again. Also can check our image's size by pressing option, command and I, or alt, control and I for Windows users, and let's transform that one to millimeters. And here as you can see we have an A4 size image, and also we have a high res image, 300 ppi or pixels per inch, and it's quite a large image as well. So let's cancel that. And also we happen to have the company's logo as well in that file, actually in that layer, to make your life easier. However, we'll talk about that logo in a while, so let's disable that one. But remember that it's in here as well to make your life easier. So now we have our image ready. We can save that one as a JPEG file or even a TIFF file for a higher quality, which I really recommend in that case. So let's go ahead, file, save as, and here we have our file's name. I'm not gonna change that one. It's a very interesting name as you can see. And from our formats, we're gonna be selecting TIFF, okay? Then you can click save. However, I do already have that one saved, so I'm gonna cancel that. And now let's import that image in our InDesign file. Going back to InDesign, well, simply you can drag and drop your image in here right away. However, it's even better to use that tool in here, rectangle frame tool, drawing our frame for our image all the way to here. We need to drag that one, selecting our move tool, and drag that one exactly to the center. And we do already have the snap feature enabled, and you can make sure that that one is working by going to view, guides and grids, or grids and guides, and make sure you have that one enabled, snap to guides. And now let's go to our resources folder, selecting InDesign projects, and we have our image as TIFF. Let's drag and drop that one, and now it's being placed in our frame as you can see. And you might notice that we have a thin white line in here between our center and our image, that line, and that's mainly because we didn't compensate for our bleed area as well. We do have some bleed around our A4 file size, or A4 page size in that case. So what we're going to do in that case is to reposition our image and maybe transform it a bit. So let's zoom out. And let me tell you guys how that frame is working. That's basically a clipping mask. So if you drag your frame from any side like so, it's gonna be clipping your image. It's not gonna be transforming or cropping your image. It's just clipping your image. You can get it back again by dragging that slider all the way to here. And if you're going to move your frame, it's gonna be moving your image as well. But let's undo that, Command or Control Z twice. And if you'd like to reposition your image within your frame, you can hover over your frame till you see that circle once again. And if you click in here in the center of that circle, you can select your image and move it around. So now we have our frame in the same location as it was. However, we have our image moved a little bit higher and so on. So let's drag our image to the center. So currently guys, we have our image selected. However, let's go back and select our frame once again, selecting our move tool and clicking on our frame. And once you have your frame selected, you will see those squares in here, that blue one and that yellow one, and we will be discovering these squares in a while. However, now let's see how we can transform our image while we have our frame selected. You can hover to that corner in here, then pressing Command and Shift and dragging will be transforming your image. So let's undo that, and let's slightly reduce our image size by pressing Command or Control Shift, then dragging a bit inside like so. And by the way, you will also see that link or chain icon in here, which means that we have a linked or placed file, and that image is not actually existing in our InDesign file. So let's quickly check how that looks like by pressing Alt or Option key and clicking in here. Now we have our links panel opened, so we can see our image in here. We can see more information like name, format, which page, we have that link, and scrolling down you can see more as well. Color space, CMYK, size, and also we have resolution, which is really important in that kind of design. We're working on print design file, we need a high res in here, and also we have dimensions in pixels and so on. So actually you cannot delete that file or even move its location on your hard disk unless you create a package folder for that file, which we'll discuss later through that course. But for now you cannot delete your images or move them. I cannot stress that enough, okay? Anyway, let me show you guys one more interesting feature about your images in InDesign and how you can edit that one in Photoshop while you're working on your image. So currently we have our image selected. We can collapse that panel, right click in here, and you'll find edit with. And let's select Photoshop, and now we have our image opened in Photoshop. And let's say you would like to add a color touch in here, and let's maybe create a new layer, do any kind of changes to our file, make a quick selection in here and drag that one, selecting a red color, any kind of color, pressing Alt or Option key and backspace, then pressing Command or Control D. And now once we save that, it's going to update in InDesign as well. So let's press Command or Control S and pressing OK. Okay. And now let's go back to our InDesign file. Here we have our image updated, as you can see. You can go to your links panel if you don't see that update for any reason, and you can click on that icon in here to update your link. And if you would like to open that link, you can click in here, go to that link, or you can click in here to relink your image if you moved that one to another location, or if you have that image in your CC libraries, you can relink that one from there. And also anytime you can edit original by clicking in here. So anyway, let's go back and delete that layer. I don't really need it. We're gonna do that one in InDesign, by the way. Pressing Command and Control S again. Now we have that one saved. Let's go back to our InDesign file. Now you can see that we have that layer gone. And let's collapse our links panel once again. And now let's go ahead and bring our logo. And let me show you guys more tricks by going to Illustrator that time instead of Photoshop. And as you can see guys, we have the same design done in Illustrator as well. And that's totally fine. You can make your covers in Photoshop or even Illustrator, then bring them to Adobe InDesign, or even you can design them from scratch in InDesign, especially if they don't have too much graphics and effects. However, InDesign really excels in multi-pages design, like brochures, books, catalogs, or even flyers. So let me show you guys what I did in here. Here we have our company's logo. By the way, it looks like that. We're using a wide version of our logo in that case. Zooming in, that's a wide version, and we have a background rectangle. It's a red one. And also we do have another background rectangle for shadow with some feather effect. So let me select that rectangle in here and move it to right. Actually, we need to only select that one, selecting the direct selection tool. I'm gonna select that rectangle, move tool, let's move it to here so you can see better. Okay, and we have our appearance panel opened as well. Scrolling down, you can see that we have feather effect applied. You can click in here to see that we have 0.4 centimeters applied to our rectangle. And also I've moved that anchor point a bit to bottom so I can get that nice shadow effect. Pressing cancel, and let's undo that, Command or Control Z, because I need to have some nice focal point on our logo or our brand's name in that case, or you can say that's our main element in that cover. So I added that nice shadow effect and I added more red area to our logo. Anyway, let me show you guys cool tricks to import that vector file into our InDesign file. First of all, we can select our vector file, which is our logo in that case with that background. Let me press Shift and deselect these rectangles or these elements as well. First of all, you can press Command or Control C to copy that vector file, and if you have a newer version of Adobe InDesign, you can right away paste that one into your InDesign file by going back to InDesign application and pressing Command or Control V. But before we do that, make sure that you don't have anything selected like that frame in that case. So let's click outside while having our move tool selected, clicking in here, pressing Command or Control V, and now we have our vector file placed in Adobe InDesign, which is a new feature, by the way, in Adobe InDesign, that you can be placing vector files, scalable vector files. You can press Shift and drag, and it's gonna be maintaining its resolution, as you can see. And anyway, let's undo that. That's one way to place our vector files. We didn't use frames in that case. You can see that we have our raw vector file. Let's drag that one a bit to here. And if you're using an older version of Adobe InDesign, you can use your libraries, CC libraries, for example. Let's go back to our Illustrator, and we have libraries opened. You can create a new library. I've created that one for InDesign. Double clicking in here, we have an empty folder we can drag and drop, and it's telling me there might be some changes because we have a legacy format. That's totally fine. Let's see how that will look like anyway. Okay, now we have our vector file added to our library. We can go back to InDesign, then let's select our libraries. Here we have our graphics showing. We can drag and drop that one. However, in that case, it's coming with a frame as well. You can tell from these squares that yellow and blue squares. So if we drag that bounding box, it's going to be clipping our vector file. It's not going to be resizing our file. And if you would like to resize your file, make sure that you press Command and Shift and drag that corner. Let's double click in here to get our vector file showing. That's another trick with frames. If it's hiding or clipping some of your graphics, you can double click to see everything. And if you have too large frame like so, you can double click to collapse that frame around your graphics. So let's use that one in here. It's nice and it has a frame. That one doesn't, so let's delete that one and move that one to here. The other way, if you don't have libraries in your InDesign and you don't have Adobe InDesign CC, then you can easily export your files from Illustrator as a JPEG or TIFF file format as well, by going to File, then selecting Export, and you can select Export As. And once you have that one as a JPEG, you can go to your InDesign and drag and drop that logo, or instead of dragging and dropping that logo, you can place that file by going to File. If you don't like to drag and drop, you can go to File, then you can select Place or Command or Control D. Then let me show you guys another feature as well. We're going to be selecting our mockup file. I know we're not going to be using that design in our spread. Let's click Open. And since we had that frame selected, we had our image placed in here. So let's undo that. And now we have our imported image moving with our mouse cursor. Let's click anywhere, maybe that corner. So now that's our image within a frame as well. So let's maybe clip that image all the way to here, and let's maybe move it to the bleeding area as well, since we have a color in that case. I know we're not going to be using that image, but I'm trying to tell you about something in here, because in that image it doesn't really matter. We have a white background for that image, and we're going to be printing also on white paper, so we don't really have to extend our design file all the way to our bleed edges. However, if we do have colors like that image in here, we need to extend our design element all the way to our bleed area. And let's say you would like to fit that image within your page, you can right click on your image, then you'll find fitting, then we can fit our content to frame by clicking in here. Now we have some distortion happened, as you can see. and that's why I usually prepare my images in Photoshop before I bring them in here or even Illustrator, so I can really make sure that I have the right resolution and proportions as well. So anyway, we don't need that image, so let's delete that one pressing delete or backspace. And let me tell you guys before we move on that you already have gone so far in InDesign, by the way, till that point. You have created some pages, margins, bleeds, you've seen some frames, you've been working with graphics and taking care of resolution as well. And also you've been importing or placing vector files in different ways. And now it's time to deal with text as well, which is really so easy by the way. So let's dive in right away.